I can kick it off real quick. So,
Okay.
Destiny, would you agree with me that the motivation for demonizing the opposition political party often revolves around calling them traitors, accusing them of treason, and pushing for, some type of villainization that they are against the country, they are against you, they are against everybody?
For another debate, maybe, but that's not at all any of the subject here, any of the subject matter here.
Well, I think it is. I think it ties in because I believe that the motivation for why you're claiming that the other side are a bunch of insurrectionists, though you have no direct evidence of this, and your own criteria is just that of basically a riot, that your motivation is just to demonize the opposition.
Sure, but this isn't a debate over my motivation. I could be motivated by 100 million different bad faith factors, and literally none of them would be relevant to this conversation. It
Yeah,
could be the fact that the DNC actually paid me money to give this precise argument, and Kamala's on the phone with me right now, and it wouldn't have any impact on this particular debate.
I think it would be. I think that the motivation for why you're making the argument itself would have an impact on the debate. But I am willing to concede that if you just want to keep it to the material, we can. Let's move over to point two then. Point two, you say resisting any law or interference with the course of a government proceeding wouldn't fit rioting itself. How does that not fit rioting itself? Of course it does.
Well, let's say, for instance, the purpose of a riot was because you felt like the law wasn't being enforced. It wouldn't make sense to call that part of an insurrection. Let's say, for instance, that
I
there was
agree.
a, let's say that there was a lynching of a person, and you felt like the cops weren't, upholding their duty or whatever, and so you decided to have a protest that turns into a riot, and you all show up with the goal of protesting and rioting because you felt like the law wasn't being carried out here. You wouldn't really call that an insurrection because they're not trying to contravene a legal process. Just because, again, you engage in unlawful conduct doesn't mean that you're trying to resist, like the implementation of the carrying out, resisting the laws.
That would be the same case with insurrection then.
No, because
Insurrection
when you're
would
insurrecting,
also
you're trying
require
to say,
intent, right?
yes, yeah, correct. Yes. So the intent would be the contravening of the Electoral Count Act. When people say we need to march and make our voices heard on January 6th to the Capitol grounds where people are going to protest, they're protesting the execution of the Electoral Count Act, which demanded that Vice President Pence count the electoral votes. Donald Trump didn't want that. He made it very clear in the days preceding. Him, Bannon, Eastman, Chesbrough, and everybody else that was working alongside him, Sidney Powell, everybody else, was saying that we need to prevent Pence from counting the electoral vote. That was the execution of a lawful government function.
But even if all
an act, and that's what people are going.
yeah, but even if all that's true, Destiny, it still wouldn't matter because the events of January 6th themselves, the intent of the people could have just been to riot, not indeed to commit to any sort of treasonous insurrection activity. And you have failed to demonstrate this time and time again how this actually would meet the criteria of an insurrection. Them showing up, and just like your take in 2021, right? When you say, hey, look, the damage would have been way worse if they had shown up with the purposes of actual insurrection or some type of 1776 mindset. This is the most armed nation on planet Earth. How in the world can you say these people showed up specifically in order to do that? That makes no sense, man.
None of this law, none of that argumentation was subject. People they obviously showed up to protest the certification of the vote. They were called there by Donald Trump.
If it's a non sequitur, then you in 2021 were using a non sequitur when you made the argument that from the appearance of this, it could not have been an insurrection.
2021 Destiny was incorrect because 2021 Destiny didn't have the historical context to understand an insurrection. If you want to bring him on here and talk to him, you can.
I am talking
I don't agree
to
with
him.
everything
You're
that
not,
I said.
you.
You're not. I am 2024 Destiny. I have learned more things. I have done more studying. I've read more papers, and I've done more research on this. There is actually a strong understanding of what an insurrection is, and there was a strong historical understanding of what an insurrection is. And the idea that a bunch of people were called on January 6th, the date wasn't a mistake. When Donald Trump sent them down there to protest, when he said we need Mike Pence to do the right thing, what was he talking about? He wanted him to contravene the law, and that's what people marched down there for them to do.
Donald Trump said 30 minutes before this began that this needed to remain a peaceful protest on Twitter.
No, he didn't. He never said that.
He did. I actually have the tweet.
No, he didn't.
I have the tweet. He did. He did say that.
In the speech, he said to fight like hell, and in the speech, he said that we need to go
I'm talking
down.
about his tweets. Why would a person put out a tweet to be peaceful if their intent was insurrection, Destiny?
Why would a person call a protest on January 6th? What do you think they were protesting?
What do you mean? They call protest. People call protests all the time. That doesn't mean that the purpose of the protest is insurrection.
What was the purpose of the protest on January 6th?
The purpose of the protest was to go out and show support for Donald J. Trump. So I have a problem with him ascribing motivation to all. He says there's one clear reason why everybody showed up. That's clearly not true. That doesn't even logically make sense. He could never demonstrate in a million years that there was only one clear reason why everybody showed up. That's a nonsensical argument, Destiny.
That's not the argument that I'm making. If the,
That
if
was
the
the
debate
argument you
was,
made.
if the debate is whether or not January 6th is an insurrection, not did every single person on January 6th engage in the crime of insurrection, or did every single person on January 6th go with the intent
Then
to
why did you
commit
say
an
there was one
insurrection?
clear reason why
I
everybody
said that
showed
there was
up?
a clear reason why people were called there, because there was. Donald Trump called people there to protest not on January 5th and not on January 7th and not in a random part of DC and not in a random part of the country. He called them on January 6th to the ellipses that was less than a mile walk away from the Capitol building, which is where he sent every single person after his speech. He called them there on the day of the certification
That
of the
doesn't
votes,
tell
after
us their
spending
motivation.
days trying to pressure Pence to overturn the
That
election.
doesn't tell
He
us
told
their
them that
motivation,
they need to go
Destiny.
and protest for the lawful slates of electors to be counted, the illegitimate ones that he submitted, and people
Bro,
went
even
there.
if I
They
grant your
engaged in
logic, it
violent
makes no
behavior.
sense. It's actually an illogical argument to make, to say, even if Donald Trump had some certain intent in his head, that would not mean that the people who were showing up for the protest had that intent. So the thing is like for you, both ways, it's a double entendre for your own logic. Either one, you claim, wait a second, there's one clear reason everybody showed up, or two, no, there was no clear reason why everybody showed up. They had multiple motivations, even if Trump himself had a different motivation. This is illogical argumentation.
I'm sorry, but this would never be applied to anything. If somebody says, "Hey guys, we're all going to
That's
show
not
up
an
so that we
argument
can
either.
go," and I'm making the argument right now. If somebody were to make the call and say, "Hey guys, we're all going to show up to go and blow this building up," and a bunch of people showed up, and then a bunch of them marched with the crowd, and then they all went, and a building got blown up, we wouldn't say like, "Oh, well, we don't know what the intention of the crowd was. We don't know what the intention of the leader there was. We don't know what actually happened there," because we can't divine the intention of every single individual
That's a
person.
ridiculous straw man.
We can say that's, you can call it a straw man, but
It
the
is.
idea that in order for me, okay, hold on. What would I need
So hang
to
on, let me
show
respond
then?
to your first argument,
Wait,
and
hold
then
on.
you
What would I need to show? What would
no,
I
there's
need
no
to show?
spurging. Let me respond to
I'm
the
not
argument,
spurging,
and then
but
you can ask.
you're not
You-
even letting me talk. You
Bro,
can respond to my
bro,
argument.
you
can phrase the
made
question
an
as part of
argument.
this.
Let me respond, and then you can ask the second argument. I think that that's fair. So
Okay.
when you're talking about this from a logical standpoint, when you say, "Oh, if somebody called and said, 'Hey, we're all going to blow this building up,' yes, I would agree that you could probably ascribe the motivation to it. Then can you show me a tweet, or any type of anything from Donald Trump saying, 'Hey guys, show up. We're going to do an insurrection'? No, you just made the
Yes,
shit up.
I can. Okay, fine. So I can. So as part of Donald Trump's speech, I'll give you two quotes. "Our country has had enough. We will not take it anymore, and that's what this is all about." And to use a favorite term that all you people really came up with, "We will stop the steal." Today, I will lay out just some of the evidence proving that we won this election. We won it by a landslide. This was not a close election. The first quote. The second quote: "We must stop the steal, and then we must ensure that such outrageous election fraud never happens again, can never be allowed to happen again." When he says stop the steal, when they're at the Capitol building on January 6th, and when the election is being certified, what does stop the steal mean there?
Wait a second. So, first of all, you're attributing to Donald Trump's rhetoric here something which he may not have intended. None of that actually shows or demonstrates that he was calling for an insurrection on the Capitol. You are just kind of ascribing that motivation onto it for the purposes of convenience. You have to show me there where he calls, like your example was, if I say we're all going to show up and blow up this building, that was your example, and then people show up and do it, we can understand their motivation. I agree. You have to show me where he says, okay, guys, we're all going to show up and do an insurrection. You can't then take words that don't say anything about an insurrection and say, but I think he meant that, though.
Join us over at the Crucible.video. Crucible.video, become a member over there. $15 a month for access to it all.